Hey y'all, it's me, Dree. This one today I sense is going to be a little longer. This Mercury retrograde, I am feeling it in full swing. I am a double water air sign, and I'll tell you what, I am feeling that energy hard this week. But let's get into this message, because immediately I noticed that with these top emotion cards, this reading is not beginning with action. I'm getting that it begins with an internal process. I'm getting that the collective isn't being asked to change the outside world first. I'm getting that the collective is being asked to regulate their inside world, because the emotion that we start with is balance, and balance is not perfection. Balance is emotional regulation. It's returning to center after spending too much energy trying to manage other people, other circumstances, or other outcomes that were really never yours to control. And once that regulation begins, I'm getting that confusion naturally arises. And at first glance, I know this almost seems backwards. Wouldn't balance remove confusion? But I actually think the balance here exposes it. Because when the nervous system settles, well, the mental noise becomes visible. You begin noticing where you've been operating from assumptions, mixed signals, old narratives, even conflicting information. And this doesn't happen because you're becoming more confused. No. This happens because you're finally calm enough to recognize the things that were already there. That is a really powerful concept, because it's true. So this confusion is turning into ambivalence here. So this feels like the crossroads. The confusion has now narrowed itself into two competing realities. One part wants to return to what is familiar. The other part recognizes that something deeper has changed. This isn't indecision born from weakness. This is discernment being developed. I'm getting the collective is learning that not every opportunity, relationship, conversation, or even invitation deserves a yes. Because finally, the emotions end at awakening. And this is not because someone suddenly had an epiphany. No, I'm getting that because balanced, followed by honest observation, followed by true discernment, that naturally produces an awakening. So this awakening, it feels earned here. It's the realization that clarity doesn't arrive by forcing answers. It arrives by becoming regulated enough to recognize the truth that has been sitting in front of y'all the whole time. Now let's get into this message. We start with the first column with the 10 of coins. We have the Knight of Wands reversed, The Empress reversed. The Six of Coins reversed. So straight away we're introduced to this Ten of Coins. I think this establishes where the collective was when this dynamic entered their life. The Ten of Coins here, this represents something that almost anyone would find appealing. This speaks to wealth, security, domestic stability, legacy. This is the image of having it all together on the surface. This looks like a solid foundation. Doesn't it? I think it does. And it's only fitting that it follows balance. But then this Knight of Wands reverse shows up. I don't think this knight built the Ten of Coins. I think he entered it. Because a knight reverse, that doesn't embody the qualities that create lasting stability. This Knight of Wands reverse, he's reckless. He's volatile, arrogant. He acts impulsively, and he's unpredictable. And I'm even picking up a layer of jealousy behind his behavior. It's almost as though this person moves into an already established environment only to begin disrupting it through their own instability. Then we arrive at the Empress, and she's reversed. And this is where the energy has to change dramatically. Because I think the Empress is the one represented by the Ten of Coins. She's the one who created the foundation. This is the nurturing energy. This is abundance, stability. So I'm getting the knight didn't build it. He stepped into it. And somewhere along the way, this knight's behavior knocked the Empress completely out of alignment. The reversal here doesn't make me feel like she's suddenly become a different person. No. It feels like someone whose nervous system has been overwhelmed by something. This is someone who's no longer operating from their natural state. Instead, this Empress is forced to turn inward. She's paying attention to her body. And maybe this manifested as physical symptoms. Maybe she was experiencing emotional exhaustion. I put a new screen cover on and it's turning my screen black. So, yeah, this Empress, maybe it was emotional exhaustion. Maybe it was simply a nervous system that could no longer sustain the instability that was surrounding it. Whatever the source, something has shifted this Empress away from who she naturally is. And then the last card of this row is the Six of Coins reverse. And this introduces dependency. And I think this explains why the Empress is out of alignment. This is strings attached energy. This is a one-sided dynamic. This is an exchange where one person is continually giving while the other person is continually taking. But what stands out to me the most is the undervaluing. Because the very person who began this column in the 10 of coins energy is now being made to feel as though they lack something, as though they need something that this knight possesses. The imbalance here isn't because the Empress has less, it's because the knight has distorted her perception of her own value. That's the distortion I'm seeing anyways, because no Empress loses her value. She simply lost sight of it. So let's go to the second column, which starts in this emotional state of confusion, because after what we just uncovered in the first column, I don't think the collective became confused because they lost themselves. No. I think they became confused because someone else disrupted their reality. This knight, reverse, entered an already stable foundation. He knocked the Empress out of alignment and left her questioning something she had never questioned before, her value. Let's see what created all this confusion. We've got the 5 of Swords, the 4 of Swords, Death reversed, the 10 of Cups. So we start with this 5 of Swords, and this card, it speaks to hostility, defeat. This talks about self-sacrifice. This is conflict that isn't being handled with integrity. It's abusive behavior, I'm not gonna lie. So this doesn't feel like a simple disagreement. This feels abusive to me. And honestly, I can't picture an Empress creating this kind of environment. Can you? And that's why I immediately have to take my attention again back to this knight. But after that, I'm getting everything changes. This hostile energy, that creates an unexpected plot twist. The collective is pushed into isolation. This feels like an attack, followed by abandonment. The silence here, it feels intentional, as though it was meant to punish the collective. But what stands out to me here is that the punishment, it becomes the very thing that restores the Empress. Because the collective is forced to stop. They're forced to go within and to heal. And whether this knight realizes it or not, this period of silence becomes the exact environment the collective needed to recalibrate themselves back to their natural baseline, back to balance. Because then we arrive at this death and it's reversed. So I'm getting that the collective begins an internal purge. Everything this knight disrupted, this Empress begins separating from, cleaning out, transforming from the inside. And when they emerge, we are left seeing a 10 of Cups. So the collective doesn't simply recover. They rebuild. They are emotionally fulfilled. They're stable again. There is peace here. There is also sustainability here. But one thing that is pulling at me so much is the image of this family. And I know this Ten of Cups is real, but it just feels like something's off. I'm just thinking, if everything has truly been restored, why is the next emotion card ambivalence? So, I don't know. I'm getting something is still not sitting right with this reverse Empress. She has rebuilt, but I don't think we've seen the entire picture yet, because something about this Ten of Cups, I think it's asking us to look further, closer. We'll put it down for now. Let's talk about this ambivalence, because I want to pause on this emotional state we're entering. Ambivalence, that is not the same thing as confusion. You see, confusion happens when you don't understand what's happening. But ambivalence, well, that happens when you understand what's happening. And because of that, you're conflicted about what's going to come next. It's the tension that exists between two competing truths. One part of you feels certain. Another part isn't ready to let go. It's that emotional tug of war that happens when your heart and your discernment are trying to reconcile the very same exact experience. And because of that, ambivalence naturally calls for balance, not because balance is missing, but because balance is what allows you to weigh both sides without becoming consumed by either one. And that's why this emotion stands out to me so much. It's actually making the hair on my arms stand straight up right now. We already said that in column 2, the collective, they already rebuilt. They've healed. They've restored themselves. So why does this emotion remain? Something about the story is not fully settled for me. I'm getting there's still a choice, a realization, or even a truth that hasn't completely landed yet. And I think the third column might show us exactly what that is. So let's get into it. We've got the Moon, the Six of Cups, the Six of Swords reversed, and the Nine of Coins reversed. And I'm starting to feel like maybe we've visited this storyline before, because I remember the last time I was on here, we were talking about a knight that was reversed, and we were talking about this Six of Cups, and I remember I was left speechless. So maybe the universe is wanting us to explore this again. I think I understand why. Because ambivalence, we said, it is not confusion. it's what happens after the confusion begins to clear. It's when you understand what happened, but you're still trying to reconcile everything that it changed. So let's see what is creating this feeling. Straight away, we're introduced to the moon. Whenever I see the moon upright, my mind immediately goes to illusion and deception. I'm getting something that isn't being handled honestly is here. Something that's being hidden or obstructed from plain sight. Then we arrive at this Six of Cups. Immediately, my attention turns back to this Ten of Cups. Back to this image of this family. Because the Six of Cups, that naturally brings us into childhood, into children, family memories, and formative experiences. So this is a young family, young children who were at impressionable ages. I'm getting that the children involved in this dynamic were impacted, possibly the most. It feels like they shared this environment with the Empress and the Knight also. And I'm getting if the Knight couldn't regulate his behavior around an Empress, then it's very possible the children witnessed or experienced that same instability, that same hostility, and they too experienced abuse themselves. Because then we get to the Six of Swords, and this is reversed. So this card doubles down on the feeling I'm expressing. This card speaks of slow healing, a storm that continues to brew, an experience that lingers long after it's over. Instead of moving away from pain, the pain continues moving with them. So now I'm looking at this story differently, because the Knight, he didn't just leave the Empress with deep wounds. He left the children carrying them too. And I said it last time, and I'm going to say it again. That is a real tragedy. The column ends with this Knight of Coins reverse. And this couldn't lock the message in any better. This is one of those messages that each card is aligning with the other just right. I'm getting the Empress has already begun rebuilding herself, but now her focus shifts. It's not on herself anymore. Now it's towards her children. I'm getting that she's beginning to recognize the impact this dynamic had on them. The wounds surrounding their self-worth, all their energy that they poured into appeasing this Knight, only to still be left unseen, neglected, and deeply wounded. I don't know, I just gotta say it, because suddenly this awakening, it's making perfect sense, because I don't think the awakening begins with the Empress's own experience. No. I think the awakening begins when the Empress truly sees her children's experience. When the truth comes to the light. And the access this knight had to this family, well, that came through the Empress. And man, that realization would be gut-wrenching for any parent, wouldn't it? I don't know. I think we've already uncovered the true source of the awakening here. It wasn't the night. It was finally seeing what the children experienced because of the night. Now let's move into this last and final part of the message. We have the Hangman, the Page of Coins, the Lovers reverse, and the Two of Wands reverse. So, I think this is where everything we've uncovered finally begins making a lot of sense. We start with this Hangman. This card speaks to a major shift in perspective, an unexpected realization. This is an aha moment. Something comes to light. And once it's seen, it cannot be unseen. And I'm getting the Empress now understands something she couldn't see before. And because of that, there's no more wavering. There's no more uncertainty. If there was any confusion that was still lingering, I'm getting it's been wiped away completely. Because the Empress knows exactly where she stands. Then we move into this Page of Coins, and this tells me the Empress's rebuilding continues. We've already seen the collective putting themselves back together, doing the work, investing in their healing, believing something good can still come from everything they've endured. So the collective is moving forward with faith. Faith that truth has value. Faith that rebuilding has purpose. And I think that it does. The next card is the Lovers reversed. And I don't think this is talking about romance here. I think it's talking about a choice. A choice that was made that wasn't aligned. The truth the Empress has awakened to is that allowing the Knight into this family dynamic, that came from believing he was safe, from believing he belonged, from believing he was aligned with the values of the family. But I'm getting so strongly that he wasn't. So instead, what happened is the Knight created discord, disharmony, division. He disrupted the very foundation he was welcomed into. And that realization would change everything, wouldn't it? I think it would. I know for me it did. This message ends on the Two of Wands reversed. And this tells me the collective isn't looking towards another direction anymore. The decision has already been made. The path has already been chosen. There is no more standing at the crossroads for this Empress. There is no more wondering what should happen next. Because I'm getting that this awakening settled the matter altogether. And these cards, they don't tell us exactly what action the collective is going to take against this knight. But these cards do say that the knight's choices and actions towards her family is now what has become the Empress's entire purpose. So yeah, the cards don't tell us what happens next, but they do tell us what is driving wherever it is that this story is going to go. And that's purpose, protection. I don't know. After everything we've just uncovered, I can't help but ask, at what lengths would an Empress go to protect her children? Because once the truth is seen, there is no more returning to what once was. This awakening, that has changed everything. And I'm getting the most is it's changed everybody's destiny in this picture. The kids are going a different way. The Empress is going a different way. And the only one who's not moving with intention is this knight. Which tells me if everybody else is with intention, well, the consequences are naturally going to align with the person that's not upright. And that's a shame for this knight, but I'm getting that it's well earned. It's well deserved. And I'm getting that this Six of Coins reverse is just getting returned. Because whatever's landing for this knight, it's most definitely going to be one-sided. That's the message that I have for y'all today. So if this one landed, then like my message, leave me a comment, and follow along. And remember, where there is love, there is light. I'll see you all again real soon.